welcome to the CBR video podcast. My name is Jason Stampo and I'm CBR's editor. I'm very pleased today to be joined by Tim Pitcher, HP 3PAR European Director. Hi Tim, how are you today?
Very well, Jason, how are you?
Good, thank you very much. Thanks for joining this video. I wonder if I could start by asking you, as you know, towards the end of last year there was this bidding war for 3PAR. HP eventually won out. Why do you think there was that bidding war? What was it that was driving so much excitement around 3PAR at the time?
So there was a lot of excitement, Jason, yes there was. You know, if you look at what 3PAR offers and where 3PAR fits in the marketplace, increasingly we're suited to what customers are looking for. They face a choice. Do they buy infrastructure themselves and build their own IT infrastructures out, or do they buy that as a service, and do they go to service providers? And this service provider market and this ability to offer shared service infrastructures is becoming increasingly important, and that's where 3PAR fits. But even more important than that is that within that environment, the shared service infrastructure, 3PAR was unique in its ability to scale and its ability to offer efficient storage platforms, and the ability also to work within virtual environments was critical.
Okay. And I understand that you talk about your storage as being utility storage. What do you mean by that?
Well, so if you think about those early service providers and what they needed, firstly they needed to be able to have storage infrastructure that would scale non-disruptively. So it needed to work in an environment where customers didn't have any downtime. So you needed this highly scalable infrastructure that scaled as you grew it. So very often you find in storage environments, the more you try and scale it out, the more the performance drops. So you can't have the performance drops, and you can't have outages where customers are required, where the service provider needs to maintain the system. So you can't do either of those two things. Secondly, you need to be incredibly simple, because if the service provider can have a simple architecture that they can use, then by definition they can have fewer people managing it. And the more you manage an environment without people in, you get fewer errors, you get fewer problems associated with it, but also you reduce your expenses as well. And lastly, and importantly, it was critical that you could share that environment. So 3PAR pioneered a multi-tenant architecture and a clustered multi-tenant architecture that allowed you to scale, whilst at the same time take lots of different applications and lots of different external customers and move them into one environment. And this is critically important, because by definition, if you can share it, as opposed to build it every single time you get a new customer into your organisation, it's inherently more efficient, and it's inherently far more cost efficient to run as well.
Now, Gartner said that by the end of 2010, around 25% of workloads would already have been virtualized. That's mostly talking about server virtualization. What about storage virtualization? Is that also, what are the benefits of storage virtualization when done perhaps in conjunction with server virtualization, would you say?
So HP's vision of the data center of the future is that it will be built around shared resource pools. So you'll have networking, server and storage shared resources all managed under a blade system matrix architecture. So all built to open standards as well, so there's no lock-ins. But what this means is that in the server environment, in the virtual server environment, if you haven't built a virtual storage environment behind it, a shared service resource pool of storage behind your shared resource pool of servers, then you miss out on many of the benefits for cost savings and flexibility and agility that you get with virtual servers. So it's critical that in your data center you have a virtual storage environment. And clearly, obviously, HP 3PAR, we have a virtual storage platform that helps you really reap the benefits of your server environment.
So you describe it as a virtualized storage platform rather than storage that just happens to be able to support virtualization. So you're saying the virtualization, if you like, sort of built into your storage arrays?
So the capabilities within HP 3PAR are all built in. So if you go back again to how we started the conversation around service providers, that marketplace was something that 3PAR really architected the whole system around, as opposed to it being something that we've then taken and tried to fit into this new market, into this shift that we're going through. So the efficiency, the thin provisioning is built in, and in fact we've moved beyond that now into thin persistence and thin conversion as well. So we're in kind of thin 2.0, if you will, which allows you to keep your storage environment thin. The efficiency and the autonomic nature in which the system can be managed is all built in as well. It's just how it's built and how it's done. And the virtualization engine is how we store information, how the data is laid out and striped across the disk drives. That's what we do.
So as you know, Tim, analysts will tell you that data volumes in the enterprise are doubling approximately every 18 months for most companies. Some it's even faster, as you know. How does HP 3PAR's technology help them cope with that sort of demand? You know, what is it that's special about your technology you think that helps them cope with this explosion in data they're seeing?
So if you look at it in terms of what it costs to own your storage platform over a period, let's say, of 5 years, roughly 20% of it will be capital expenditure. So if you're really going to have an impact on expenses, you need to look at that other 80%. And this is where HP 3PAR really can have a very big impact. What thin provisioning can help you do is reduce the capital expenditure piece, but by staying thin over time, you can reduce the amount of storage you need to buy moving forward. Over time, as data grows, you're clearly going to need more, but if you can limit the impact of that, that's obviously going to be very good for your business. The second area that we really have pioneered is simplicity through autonomic management. The ability to reduce the numbers of administrators you have. Doesn't matter how much your platform scales, it stays simple, stays easy to manage, and critically stays agile. That's fundamental to the success of an IT environment as your data is growing. And the last one is multi-tenant clustering. And that multi-tenant nature means that you can put lots of different applications for lots of different lines of business if you're an enterprise customer, or lots of different applications from lots of different customers into a single shared environment. And by definition in the world of storage, if something's shared, it's far more efficient than something that you've got to build many times over. If you've just got to build it many times over, it's more expensive to manage, you've got lots more of it, it takes up more space, etc. So those three capabilities are the three things that HP 3PAR has that allows customers to deal with the challenge of data growth. Data growth in itself doesn't just have an impact on how much storage you buy, but has a dramatic impact on the total cost of ownership. So autonomic management, simplicity, efficiency, and the last piece of it, the third thing, is multi-tenant clustering.
Okay, so I know we've talked a bit about how 3PAR has this stranglehold, if you like, in the service provider market. Are you starting to see enterprises move down this private cloud route, perhaps using some of those ideas learned from service providers to provide more agile IT to their own organisations?
So our view is that there'll be this, for enterprise customers, they'll move down a hybrid cloud model. So, if in the world of service providers, the majority of the leading service providers today use 3PAR in their shared infrastructure. So this is typically where they are proactively going to market because it's a better business model for them and it's far more efficient for their customers. So we're seeing a lot of enterprise customers, such as PayPal and eBay, use our service providers here in the UK and of course, all around the world. But we're also seeing it from an enterprise perspective as well. Enterprise customers are seeing the shift for what was termed as private cloud. But we don't think that they'll just build their own clouds. They will use many different applications. They'll move out of their organisations and buy those as a service. Now, our core customer base has really been defined by those two customers if you look at the traditional or the legacy 3PAR company. So our customers were were defined by, are they service providers or are they really looking to build internal service bureaus for their own internal use? So the service provider's external customer becomes the enterprise line of business, and all their differing applications would become all the different applications that reside on the customer side. So as it moves into the storage platform, you need to deal with all their unpredictability, their different workloads, their peak workloads, and you need a flexible, agile, virtualized storage platform that can manage that. So as customers look to build these virtual environments, they look for virtual storage, and 3PAR has very often been the choice that they go with.
Okay. I think that's all we've got time for today. So Tim Pitcher from HP 3PAR, thanks very much for joining CBL for this video.
Thank you.
That's it from us. Thanks very much for watching.